She left her earring in my truck, and it wasn't my wife's. I knew it the second I touched it. A little gold hoop with a tiny black sapphire. Delicate. Expensive. Not something you'd wear to a job site. I stared at it in my palm for a full minute, engine running, sweat drying on my neck. My hands smelled like copper pipe and drywall dust, but that earring? That thing smelled like expensive perfume and danger. So I did something I hadn't done in months. I called Callie. She didn't answer. Instead, she texted, "Hey, stuck in a client dinner. Everything okay?" Everything was not okay, because I wasn't the one who had this woman in my truck. Let me back up. Last night, around 9 p.m., my wife said she was going to bed early. Exhausted from back-to-back calls, she mumbled, already halfway up the stairs. She kissed my cheek like I was her brother, her distant brother. Then she vanished into our bedroom. At midnight, I went out for a drive. Couldn't sleep. That's when I noticed the seat adjustment. My truck seat was pushed all the way back. I'm 5 feet 8 inches. Callie's 5 feet 6 inches. We never change it. The next morning, my instincts screamed at me to check the dash cam. I'd installed it last year after someone tried to break into my truck. What I saw? A man, tall, wearing a hoodie, walks Callie out of our house at 11:48 p.m. She's in the black dress she wore to my cousin's wedding. The one she said was too tight for public. They kiss. She gets in my truck. He follows. The footage cuts off when the truck pulls out. No GPS trail. No return footage. Just gone. And now here I am, sitting in the same truck, holding a stranger's earring, realizing I've been made a chauffeur in my own marriage. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. I just drove to her office. Parked across the street like a stalker in a movie. Waited. And when she finally walked out, hair tied up, heels on, smiling into her phone, I got out of the truck and called her name. She flinched. Turned. Froze. I held up the earring. "Hey, you left this." Her eyes went wide. Not because she recognized it, but because she didn't. She tried to recover. "That's not mine," she said, forcing a smile that died halfway through. "Must have been one of your clients." I nodded. "Calm. Cold. I install air conditioners, Callie, not escort services." She looked around, like hoping no one heard that. I tossed the earring into her purse. "Good luck on your date," I said. The panic on her face said everything. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. I laid on the couch, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning shadows across the room. Every click of the blades felt like a metronome counting down to something I wasn't ready for. Upstairs, Callie slept soundly. Or at least she pretended to. She didn't say much after I confronted her with the earring. Just that exhausted, overused phrase, "You're overreacting." Then she walked past me like I was a stray dog on the sidewalk, went upstairs, and shut the door. But she made one mistake. She didn't know the dashcam kept recording audio, even after the video feed cut out. I'd forgotten that detail too, until around 3 a.m., when I opened the app and scrolled to the audio log folder. My thumb hovered for a few seconds before I pressed play, and what I heard changed everything. First came the sound of doors shutting. Her laugh, the kind she hasn't used around me in over a year, followed by the man's voice. Not Cameron. Not anyone I'd ever heard before. A deep voice with a lazy southern drawl. "So your husband's actually dumb enough not to notice?" Callie replied without hesitation. "He's clueless. He thinks I'm working late. He still leaves little notes in my lunchbox. Like I'm in high school." She laughed again. He chuckled too. "And you're still using his truck?" It's easier than explaining why I'm calling rideshares at midnight. There was a pause. The sound of a zipper. Then something I couldn't unhear. A kiss. The wet, sloppy kind. Her voice, lower now. "We don't have a lot of time. We can go near the lake." He never checks the GPS. She was right. I didn't. Until now. I sat frozen. Not angry. Not crying. Just empty. Like someone had scooped me out with a shovel and left the shell behind. 7 years of marriage, reduced to a 46-second audio clip with someone whose name I didn't even know. And then the fear hit me. How long had this been going on? I grabbed my laptop, opened the full dashcam archive, and began pulling every file from the past 3 months. Hundreds of clips, hours of footage and audio, some showing her alone, some not. By 7 a.m., I'd confirmed at least 4 separate nights where she used my truck between midnight and 2 a.m., always after falling asleep early. Always returning before dawn. Always just enough to make me feel crazy for asking questions. She wasn't sloppy. She was confident. By the time she came downstairs, I had the earring in a Ziploc bag, the dashcam files backed up to a flash drive, and my wedding ring off. It was the first time in 7 years I'd taken it off. My finger felt cold without it. Callie yawned and poured herself coffee like it was just another Thursday. "You're not going to work?" she asked, not looking at me. "I called in," I said quietly. "Told them I had a situation to deal with." She raised an eyebrow. "You're still on that?" "Dawson, I told you, I don't know whose earring that is. Maybe it belonged to that client from 2 weeks ago. The real estate lady. She was in the truck for like 5 minutes." "You mean the real estate lady you said was a man?" She froze. Just for a moment. "But I saw it. I always see it, too late. I need to grab a few things," I said. "Be back later." And then I left. Not because I was afraid of what she'd say, but because I was terrified I'd listen to her and believe it. That's how deep it had gotten. She could spin silk from lies, and I'd wear it like a scarf around my own throat. I drove nowhere in particular. Just away. Until I ended up at the lake. Not a lake, the lake. The one she mentioned in the recording. It was empty that morning. No joggers. No cars. Just wind and mud and silence. But behind a row of bushes near the gravel lot, I found something half buried in the dirt. A torn receipt from a bar in St. Joseph. And 2 empty wine miniatures. One with lipstick around the rim. I picked them up carefully, not because I cared about evidence, but because I needed something to hold on to that wasn't a lie. And as I stood there, with the wind blowing through the trees and my wife's betrayal burning holes in my chest, I realized. This wasn't just cheating. This was sport to her. A game. And I'd been the referee who never blew the whistle. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into a grim little roadside motel with flickering neon and a sink that whined when you turned it on. I sat on the edge of the bed for hours, staring at my wedding ring lying next to the remote. It looked stupid now, like a kid's prize from a claw machine. I couldn't believe I used to twist it when I was nervous. Like it meant something. Around 3 a.m., I cracked. I picked up my phone and started scrolling through her social media. Not just the public stuff. I mean deep scrolling. Old tagged photos. Archived stories. Even the comments. It was all so curated. Fake smiles, perfect filters, witty captions about late work nights, and power clients. But one recurring username kept appearing underneath certain posts from the last few months. His comments were subtle. Just emojis, sometimes a fire or a wink. Nothing anyone would catch unless they were looking for it. His name was Zane. Just Zane. No last name. No tag. But it was enough. The next morning, I drove back home. Callie was already gone, probably off to consult some other married man or sit in someone else's passenger seat. I didn't care. I had a mission now. Something had shifted in me overnight. A weight had turned to flint. I wasn't going to scream or cry anymore. I was going to listen, watch, learn, and I was going to catch her in the act with precision. I went straight to her home office. She keeps her workspace locked, always claims she needs mental separation. But I knew where the spare key was taped under the hallway vent. I put it there myself when we moved in. The door creaked open, and I stood in the doorway for a moment, like I was violating sacred ground. Except it wasn't sacred anymore. It was a crime scene. She just didn't know it yet. Her desk was immaculate. No papers, no post-its, no sign of mess. But her laptop was still open, just asleep. When I touched the trackpad, the screen woke up like it had been waiting for me. No password prompt. Just a calendar app, open and full of color-coded blocks. Meetings, calls, events, and one entry, standing alone in red, just a few days back. Zane, 11:30 p.m., truck. No context, no description, but enough to make my hands go cold. I clicked further. More red blocks. Always late. Always vague. Client follow-up. Midnight strategy. Marketing walkthrough. What kind of client books recurring appointments after midnight? But it wasn't the titles that broke me. It was the location tags. Every single one. Pinned within 3 miles of our house. One, right in our driveway. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the calendar like it was mocking me. She was using my truck, my time, my roof, to build a schedule for her secret life. And I had been living like a background character in her show. But something else caught my eye. An address, listed under a different name. Ava's studio, 10 p.m. Ava? She'd never mentioned an Ava. I copied the address and ran it through Google. It wasn't a studio. It was a residential home, registered under Zane Whitmore. And guess what? He wasn't just some fling. He had a wife. It took me 2 full days to build up the nerve to drive to the address. 2 days of pretending things were normal. I still took out the trash. Still fed the cat she begged me to adopt 3 summers ago and stopped caring about 6 months in. Kelly was barely around. When she talked in fragments. Work this, client that, stress, deadlines, don't be paranoid. She kissed my cheek twice. Both times, she did it like she was punching a time card. I didn't confront her. I just watched. That Sunday evening, after she said she needed to clear her head and left in gym clothes without a gym bag, I grabbed my keys and drove across town to that address from her calendar. The one labeled Ava's Studio. Cute name. I imagined maybe Zane told her his wife was an artist or photographer, something vague enough to seem harmless. But when I pulled up, it wasn't some industrial loft or stylish creative space. It was a house. Beige siding, porch light on, wind chimes clinking against the doorframe. A mailbox out front read, The Whitmores. I parked across the street and sat there for nearly 15 minutes, heart pounding so hard I thought the steering wheel might shake. My hand hovered over the door handle 5 times. I kept asking myself the same question. What if I'm wrong? What if I ruin someone else's life just because mine is falling apart? But then I remembered the way Callie laughed in that recording. That wasn't guilt. That was comfort. So I got out, crossed the street, and knocked. After a moment, the door opened, and there she was. Young, maybe 30, auburn hair, tired eyes, holding a phone in one hand and a baby monitor in the other. She looked confused, but polite. Can I help you? I froze. My mouth opened, but the words tangled up behind my tongue. For a second, I almost bailed. I could have played it off, said I had the wrong address. But then I looked past her, and on the wall behind the entryway was a framed photo. Her and Zane, smiling, holding a baby, wearing the same watch I saw on the dashcam footage. My breath caught. I cleared my throat. I think we need to talk. I'm sorry, this is going to sound insane. But your husband knows my wife. Her expression didn't change, but she did shift the baby monitor to her left hand, the way someone does when their body starts preparing for impact. What's your wife's name? Callie. Callie Elridge. Now her eyes changed. Not surprise. Not confusion. Recognition. She didn't invite me in. Instead, she stepped outside and shut the door behind her. No coat. No hesitation. I've heard the name, she said flatly. He said she was a co-worker. She's not. We stared at each other for a long moment. Just two strangers connected by betrayal, both pretending we weren't about to fall apart. Then she did something I didn't expect. She pulled out her phone, opened a folder, and handed it to me. Photos, screenshots, text messages between Callie and Zane, dates, times, inside jokes, photos of takeout orders, receipts from gas stations, even a blurry mirror selfie of my wife, in my hoodie, sitting in the passenger seat of my truck. My legs nearly gave out. She sat down on the porch step like she'd done this before, like she'd already processed it, and now it was my turn. I was going to tell her to back off, she said quietly. But then I realized, if I had to tell her, it was already too late. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw that phone into the street and light it on fire. But all I could do was whisper, "Why didn't you tell me?" She looked at me with this devastating sadness, not pity, not smugness, just sorrow, because I thought maybe you didn't want to know. I sat beside her for an hour. We didn't say much. She gave me everything she had. Every screenshot, every date, every name Zane dropped, every time Callie lied about working late. It all lined up with her calendar, with the dash cam, with the receipts. The picture was complete now. There was no maybe, no room for interpretation. My wife wasn't drifting or confused or lost. She was deliberate. She had been living 2 lives, and using mine to fund the second one. Before I left, Ava stopped me at the gate. "Just so you know," she said, "they were planning a trip next weekend. They've done it before. You might want to check your truck. Or your credit card." I didn't respond, but I knew what I had to do next. By the time I got back home, it was nearly 11 p.m. The porch light was off. No sign of her car. The house looked like it always did, small, modest, and now buzzing with a quiet poison I couldn't ignore anymore. Inside, I could smell her perfume hanging in the air, the kind she used to wear only on anniversaries. Expensive, floral, sweet in the kind of way that makes your stomach turn once you know what it's masking. I didn't go to bed. I sat in the kitchen, in the dark, with a notepad in front of me. An old yellow legal pad I used for HVAC quotes and measurements. I drew 2 columns, one labeled her lies, the other my truths. Under lies, I listed the story she told me 3 nights ago about a last-minute client dinner. The same night the dashcam caught her in my truck. Then the Tuesday before that, she claimed she had food poisoning and slept in the guest room. But Zane's wife had a receipt from a hotel in Kansas City under her name. Then the time she said her sister's flight got delayed and she had to drive her to the airport. Turns out her sister was in Florida all week. I filled half the page in 20 minutes. The other column? The truths? I didn't have as many. I realized how little I had left that belonged just to me. My time, my truck, my paycheck, all repurposed for her theater. Even my patience had been weaponized. She used it like cover fire. Every time I chose calm over conflict, she got away with a little more. But that was over now. And I had a plan. The next morning, I played dumb. She came down the stairs with a towel around her head and her phone already in her hand. She didn't say good morning. Just walked straight to the fridge and started pouring oat milk into her coffee like everything was fine. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab the mug from her hand and throw it through the window. But instead, I smiled. "Hey," I said casually. "You mentioned needing the truck this weekend?" She blinked. That slight pause again, just half a second. Enough for her brain to wonder if I knew something. "Yeah," she replied. "Just for Sunday. That's still okay, right?" "Of course," I nodded. "I'll top off the gas for you. Got an oil change scheduled, too." Her face relaxed. She smiled. That was the moment I knew I had her. Not because she lied well, but because she thought I was still the same man I was 3 weeks ago. The man who brought her pie after 12-hour shifts. The man who rubbed her feet while she texted someone else. She didn't know that man was gone. And the one sitting across from her now? He was documenting every move. That afternoon, while she was at her fake co-working space, I called in a favor from a buddy at a local dealership. I asked for a loaner. Told him my truck needed suspension work, and I'd need it for a couple days. He tossed me the keys to a beat-up SUV and told me not to crash it. I thanked him and drove straight to a gas station on the edge of town, one that didn't have cameras. I parked the truck behind the building and pulled everything out of it. Her phone charger, her makeup kit, the breath mints she always left in the glove box. Then I pulled out my little dash cam and popped the memory card into my pocket. I wasn't just giving her the truck for her little getaway. I was giving her a ghost, an empty shell, and she'd never know the difference. When she came home, she was in a rush. She said she had to pack for a women's retreat, her go-to excuse when she needed 48 hours off the grid. She tossed her duffel bag on the bed, carefully folded clothes I hadn't seen her wear in years, and hummed softly under her breath like some teenager sneaking out for prom. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "You'll have signal out there?" I asked. "Maybe. Not great service at the cabin," she said without looking up. "I'll check in Sunday night." She was good, almost perfect, but her eyes never met mine, and she packed lingerie for a cabin with bad reception. The next morning, I watched her back out of the driveway in my truck. She waved from the window like it was any other weekend. Like she wasn't driving straight into the arms of a man whose wife now had a copy of every message he'd sent over the last 4 months. I stood on the porch with a travel mug in my hand and nodded, like the fool she still thought I was. Once she turned the corner, I walked back inside, locked the door, and pulled out my phone. I had one call to make. To Ava, Zane's wife. Because while our spouses were off building castles out of lies and gaslighting, we had work to do. I didn't sleep the night she left. Not because I was anxious, that stage was over, but because I was wired. I kept imagining the look on her face when the moment finally came. When the glass of her world cracked, not from some angry outburst or dramatic confrontation, but from a tiny detail she thought I'd never notice. I sat on the couch in the dark, rereading every message Ava had sent me. We were in sync now, 2 strangers united not by vengeance, but by the need to make it real. To make them see. Zane and Callie weren't afraid of getting caught. They were afraid of losing control. So that's exactly what we planned to take from them. That Saturday morning, I met Ava at a diner 2 towns over. She looked different in daylight. Not sad, sharp, focused. She handed me a small, prepaid flip phone. Cheap. Disposable. Already loaded with texts we had carefully scripted together. Each message designed to pull just a little more from them. Her messages would come from a friend, Someone who claimed to have seen Zane with Callie at a local gas station. Someone who said they recognized her, not him. I was surprised how easily he cracked. Zane responded in less than 4 minutes, with a sloppy mixture of deflection and panic. You're mistaken. Wrong person. Please don't text again. But then, 15 minutes later, another message appeared. Who is this? Do you know my wife? He was unraveling already, and we hadn't even sent him a photo yet. Back at home, I made sure everything was in place. I still had the flash drive with the dashcam audio, the printed screenshots, her calendar logs, every lie with a receipt attached to it. I packed it all into a manila folder and sealed it like a legal case file. It even had a name on the tab, Sunday. I left it on the coffee table, in plain sight. She'd be home tomorrow evening. She'd probably toss her bag at the door, kiss me on the cheek, tell me she was starving, and then disappear upstairs for a shower. She'd expect me to ask her how the cabin was. She'd lie, automatically, with the confidence of someone who's practiced. That was fine. Let her speak. Let her bury herself. But in the meantime, I had something else I needed to do. There was one detail Ava caught earlier that had been bouncing around in my head for days. One that seemed small at first, almost irrelevant, until it wasn't. A text Callie had sent Zane on a random Wednesday night. Leave it under the mat. I'll grab it after he's asleep. At the time, Ava assumed it was something simple. A note, maybe a small gift. But I had a gut feeling. So I waited until after sunset, then went outside with a flashlight. I lifted the corner of the welcome mat. Nothing. I crouched down and tapped the boards underneath. Hollow. That's when I found it. A loose board, the kind I'd fixed once before, back when we first moved in and the wood had warped from rain. I pried it up gently, heart pounding, and there it was. A second phone. It wasn't hers. At least not officially. No case. Scratched screen. Locked, but with no password. I stood there for a second, stunned by her carelessness. Or maybe it wasn't that. Maybe she never thought I'd look, or never thought I'd become someone who would. Inside, I sat at the kitchen table and opened the phone. It was bare bones. No apps, no calls, just text messages. All to one number. All him. Short messages. Mostly coordinates, times, and phrases that didn't mean much to anyone but them. Window open. Same place. 2 a.m. Use the neighbor's Wi-Fi. Don't park out front. She had been using this phone to run an entire parallel life, just feet away from mine. It wasn't just betrayal. It was organization. It was scheduling. It was logistics. And it had been happening under my nose while I was asleep on the other side of the wall. I took photos of everything. Every message. Every timestamp. Then I powered the phone off and placed it next to the manila envelope on the table. It was almost poetic. She used silence to control the narrative. Now it was my turn. She came through the door humming. That was the first thing that hit me. She was humming, like some Disney character walking home after dancing in a meadow. Her duffel bag dropped to the floor with a careless thud, the keys landing next to it like breadcrumbs she didn't need to bother following. She didn't notice me at first. I was sitting at the far end of the couch, lights off, hands folded in my lap, the kind of posture you see at funerals. She walked straight into the kitchen, opened the fridge, poured herself a glass of wine. Pinot Grigio, the one I always bought for her even though it made my stomach turn. She leaned against the counter, scrolling her phone and sipping with her pinky out like she'd just survived some relaxing yoga retreat. She had no idea what she was walking into. No clue that the floor she was standing on had already been pulled out from under her. She was just too self-absorbed to feel the fall yet. Eventually, she noticed the light on the dashcam sitting next to the envelope. She tilted her head, walked over, picked it up. "What's this?" she asked. "Casual. Lazy." I didn't answer right away. I wanted to give her the silence she always weaponized. The same silence she'd used every time I asked where she was, every time she'd smiled instead of answering. That silence. It had a weight to it now. A blade. So I just looked at her and said, "Open it." She hesitated. I saw the twitch in her hand. The way her fingers curled for just a second, like she already knew, deep down, that whatever was inside that envelope wasn't just a folder full of paper. It was a mirror. One that wasn't going to lie to her like she lied to me. She opened it slowly, pulled out the first photo. The screenshot of her and Zane in the hotel lobby. Her eyes didn't widen. She didn't gasp or drop the glass. No drama. Just a slow, measured exhale. She flipped to the next page. A printed text thread. Then another. And another. Dashcam transcriptions. Calendar entries. GPS logs. The photo of her burner phone. My handwritten notes. Every piece carefully dated, labeled, stacked like bricks in a wall she couldn't climb out of. She didn't say a word. Not for a full minute. Then she set the envelope down. "You went through my stuff?" she asked, voice soft. That was what she opened with. Not denial. Not apology. Accusation. I laughed once. Short. Bitter. "Your stuff," I said. "You mean my truck? My house. My time. My heart." Her mouth opened, then closed. "I can explain." "No," I said. "You really can't." She moved toward me slowly, like I was some scared animal she didn't want to spook. "It wasn't supposed to be like this, Dawson." I was confused. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "You printed instructions for him on where to park. You picked the gas station with no cameras. You borrowed my truck and brought his cologne back on the seats. That's not confusion, Callie. That's choreography." She sat down across from me, suddenly looking smaller. Like the silence she'd built her second life on was finally turning inward and choking her. "You haven't touched me in months," she said, trying to change the temperature. "You barely talk anymore." I was grieving, I whispered. I was mourning the version of you I thought still existed. Her eyes filled with something. Tears, maybe, or just the horror of finally being seen for what she was. But I didn't look away. I wanted her to sit in it, to drown in it. "I'm not mad," I said finally. "Not really." "Then why go through all this?" "Because I wanted to know who you were when you thought I wasn't watching." She swallowed hard. That, I think, was the only honest reaction she gave me all night. Then she stood up, brushed her hands against her jeans like she was resetting her expression. "So what now?" she asked. "You want me to leave?" "No," I said. "I want you to stay the night. Sleep on the couch. I already changed the locks. Tomorrow, we'll figure out where you'll go. But for tonight?" I stood up slowly, the folder still sitting between us like a crime scene. "You're going to sit here and read every page. Out loud. To yourself. You can't make me." "I'm not going to," I said. "But if you don't, I'll drop another copy at your parents' house. And another at your office. And a third one with Zane's wife, which she already half-read, by the way." Her face cracked. There it was. The real Callie. The one she kept buried beneath curated smiles and strategic affection. And for the first time in 7 years, she looked scared. She didn't finish the folder. By the 4th page, her voice had cracked. She tried to push through it, like someone forcing themselves to read a bad script, still hoping the plot might twist in her favor. But it didn't. The evidence was too loud. Her own words were too cruel. Every giggle, every plan, every line where she casually reduced me to some background character in her fantasy, it echoed louder in her voice than it ever did in mine. She looked up, eyes glassy. "I don't even know who I am anymore." I didn't answer. It wasn't my job to help her find herself anymore. That night, I left her in the living room with nothing but her folder of lies and the couch she'd once made excuses to sleep on. I went upstairs, closed the door, and locked it, not to keep her out, but to finally give myself peace. And for the first time in a very long time, I slept. Not light, anxious sleep. Real sleep. By morning, she was gone. She didn't leave a note. No dramatic final plea. Just her duffel bag missing and the air finally feeling breathable again. I stood in the doorway for a while, expecting her to come back, say something, argue, beg, scream, anything. But all I heard was birds outside and the soft hum of the refrigerator. The kind of silence that didn't hurt anymore. I walked through the house slowly. It felt mine. Not because she was gone, but because I had finally stopped waiting for her to be someone she was never going to be. Every room looked the same, but something fundamental had shifted. The weight was gone. The doubt. The confusion. All of it had been boxed up in that envelope, and now it was off my shoulders. I spent that day not grieving, but rebuilding. I called a lawyer. I called my mom. I called Ava, just to say thank you. She laughed, told me she was doing okay. She'd confronted Zane the night before. He tried to lie at first, but she had screenshots and rage on her side. She said he cried. Told her she was his real home. She told him to go sleep in the driveway, then change the locks. We agreed we'd never let them manipulate the narrative again. Two normal people. No drama. No revenge fantasies. Just survivors. With new chapters ahead. That weekend, I went back to the lake. Not to chase ghosts, but just to sit. It was overcast. A little windier than usual. I sat on a bench and watched the trees lean. I thought about the version of me who used to believe loyalty meant staying, no matter what. The man who left love notes and lunchboxes and believed a half smile meant everything was fine. He wasn't stupid. He was just hopeful. And hope isn't weakness. Not when you finally learn where to put it. It's been 3 months now. The divorce went through clean. No drama. She didn't even contest it. We split the house. I bought her out. I still drive the same truck, though I changed the seat settings and deleted the GPS history. I'm seeing someone new. Nothing serious yet. Just coffee and books and slow walks. But it feels honest. And that's something I never thought I'd have again. Every now and then, I catch myself staring at the manila folder I keep in the back of my closet. It's still there, untouched since that night. A reminder, not of her, of me. And the moment I stopped waiting to be chosen and finally chose myself. And let me tell you, it feels good, really good.